Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Spectre here for another edition of Midnight Rider. Good to have you aboard for this broadcast, now the 4th day of January. Happy New Year to those who haven't made it and seen some of the broadcasts here that have started off the year with a bang. We are on the eve, obviously, of the Georgia runoff, and of course the eve of the votes being tallied here in the Capitol. And of course we await eagerly to see what exactly is going to happen with old Pence, and if he's going to be true to his word, or if we're going to see all sorts of shenanigans play out. So that is what we have got in store on the broadcast tonight. We're going to get into some of that coverage, and we will see you back here momentarily. Warning: these social media platforms may be hazardous to your health. Censorship kills. Pain coming. This has been a PSA by Breaking Spectre. Alright, welcome back. Spectre again here for this now 4th day of January edition of Midnight Rider. Good to have you aboard. Like I said, on tonight's broadcast, we're going to talk a little bit about the election 2020, the presidential side of things, bounce around a little bit from Pennsylvania and some general election-related stuff, as well as get into the Georgia side of things here now on the eve of the runoff election. And so let's just hop right in here on the evening. And the first thing we're going to cover out of Zero Hedge is over 432,000 votes removed from Trump in Pennsylvania, data scientists say. This out of the Epoch Times here today says Pennsylvania election data shows that over 432,000 votes were removed from President Donald Trump during the November election, data scientists say. According to an analysis by the Data Integrity Group, obtained exclusively by the Epoch Times, votes for Trump from both Election Day and mail-in ballots were removed from the totals in at least 15 counties. Time series election data shows Trump's votes decrementing in various counties at numerous time points instead of increasing as would be expected under normal circumstances. So obviously these would be considered abnormal circumstances. So I'm going to let a little bit of this play through here and see what we get.
The same data scientists that showed you the election manipulation in Arizona and Georgia now bring you Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro says that Trump is trying to subtract as many votes as possible from this process. But in our first slide, you will see it's quite the opposite.
Whenever questions are raised about vote switching, the networks, mainstream media, Edison, Secretary of State, or elected officials' basic response has simply been, it's human error, which we're told was the case in Armstrong County. If that was true, what about the other 400,000 errors? How were these errors even made? Why were they made? Who is making these errors? And what other errors in our vote tabulation process do we not know or hear about? Don't these votes deserve a second look? The bottom line is that errors were made. The data confirms these errors, and it shouldn't matter if they were machine or human. They are still errors and deserve a second review and thorough analysis with forensic audits to find the answers.
Yeah, I'll just pause that there, and I'll drop the link in chat for you guys to peruse at your leisure. But one would hope that as we embark on the vote count and everything else being certified, once Pence actually gets these in hand in the joint session here come the 6th, that this is strongly taken under consideration with now more than 140 House members as well as a dozen or so on the Senate side planning to object. And of course, the shenanigans have already started with the rule changes and everything else, but we'll have to see how this plays out. So, the article continues, says the group said that Election Day vote removals happened during the vote tabulation process in at least 15 counties, including Lehigh County, Chester County, Allegheny County, Armstrong County, Westmoreland County, Northampton County, Delaware County, Montgomery County, Lackawanna County, Dauphin County, Pike County, Carbon County, Washington County, Erie County, and Luzerne County. Meanwhile, absentee vote removals happened in Allegheny County, Chester County, and Lehigh County. At least 432,116 votes, 213,707 election day votes, and 218,409 absentee votes were removed in total. There were vote movements across all candidates. However, we did not see the same type of negative decrements to any of the other candidates that we saw with President Trump's tallies, and they happened repeatedly with no explanation, Linda McLaughlin, a member of the group, told the Epoch Times. The Pennsylvania Secretary of State's office didn't respond to a request for comment from the Epoch Times. Gee, I wonder why. And there we see the tallies out there graphically for Allegheny County as well as Chester County, Election Day, absentee, etc., etc. You kind of get the idea. And of course, if you follow the link in that, obviously you'll be able to check out the rest of that video there as well. The Data Integrity Group is a group of scientists, engineers, and machine learning experts who have been working together to check whether or not there was manipulation of data in the 2020 general election. The group's lineup of data scientists include John Mealy and Dave LeBeau. Mealy is a 9-year veteran of the U.S. Navy, where he worked as an electronic warfare technician, cryptological technician, and Arabic linguist. He worked at the NSA as a mission manager for Levant/North Africa, and later worked as a CIA contractor at the National Counterterrorism Center. LeBeau has 12 years of experience in data science and machine learning across financial services, telecommunications, and research consulting industries. He currently specializes in artificial intelligence applications. Data scientists from the group have analyzed the election data for several states, including Arizona and Georgia. In our analysis of Georgia's election data, the group said it found more than 30,000 votes that had been removed from Trump's tally, and another 12,173 votes were switched to Biden. The group didn't name any state official, county official, or related voting machine manufacturers for wrongdoing. However, the group urged the state to authorize forensic audits to uphold election integrity and said it's irresponsible to certify the results before the alleged errors and anomalies are explained. The bottom line is the errors were made. Data confirms these errors, and it shouldn't matter if they were machine or human. They're still errors and deserve a second review and thorough analysis with forensic audits to find the answers, the group said. Pennsylvania's electors cast their votes for Biden and Kamala Harris as presidential-elect and VP-elect on December 14, 2020. State-certified results show Biden won the Keystone State by 80,555 votes. Edison admits one error in vote switching. Apparently just one error. That's all they could find. During the vote tabulation process, the results, which are commonly known as tabulated results, are sent to the Secretary of State's office. The data is then also shared with the media via Edison Research. Errors could be made in several steps in the election results reporting process. Though it is unclear what caused the errors or were flagged by the Data Integrity Group, Edison Research did admit a reporting error that happened separately. In a widely circulated video clip of CNN's live election night broadcast, 19,958 votes were seen being switched from Trump to Biden in 30 seconds. Rob Farman, executive vice president at Edison, admitted that the switching stemmed from a brief reporting error from Edison Research. He told the Associated Press that a state feed from Armstrong, Pennsylvania first showed the correct values of 24,233 votes for Trump and 4,275 for Biden, but a team member had mistakenly entered them backward, 4,275 for Trump and 24,233 for Biden. Farman said the company's quality control team discovered the error and corrected it that night. Yeah, right. I'll believe that when pigs learn to fly. In any case, along those lines, Powerline Blog had this to say back on the 1st, is how much voter fraud was there? Well, God knows we have certainly seen tons and tons of evidence, and of course the gaslighting process via the Mockingbird media and the censorship, they try to prevail. And that doesn't change the fact that facts are still facts, and they are there, video evidence, all sorts of evidence to the contrary of what the courts turn a blind eye to. But nonetheless, the voter fraud is a large and growing problem in the United States, and there is good reason to think that it exploded in 2020 on account of many, among other things, unprecedented numbers of mail-in ballots and deliberately lax controls in many states. John Lott has now produced a statistical analysis that suggests substantial voter fraud in Fulton County, Georgia, and Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. Lott's conclusion is that his analysis suggests a total of more than 55,000 fraudulent votes in those two counties. You can read Lott's paper here. His statistical calculations are laid out in detail, and you can evaluate them for yourself. So I'll just open this up here real quick. We'll take a quick peek at it. And it appears maybe... I'm not sure that's going to quite work as planned. Oh, there we go. Yeah, a simple test for the extent of vote fraud with absentee ballots in the 2020 presidential election, Georgia and Pennsylvania data. This was dating back to the 29th of December. Kind of lays out the abstracts as this study provides measures of vote fraud in the 2020 presidential election. It first compares Fulton County's precincts that are adjacent to similar precincts in neighboring counties that had no allegations of fraud to isolate the impact of Fulton County's vote counting process, including potential fraud. And measuring the difference in President Trump's vote share of the absentee ballots for these adjacent precincts, we account for the difference in his vote share of the in-person voting and the difference in registered voters' demographics. The best estimates show an unusual 7.81% drop in Trump's percentage of the absentee ballots for Fulton County alone of 11,350 votes, or over 80% of Biden's vote lead in Georgia. The same approach is applied to Allegheny County in Pennsylvania for both absentee and provisional ballots. The estimated number of fraudulent votes from those two sources, about 55,270 votes. Second, vote fraud can increase voter turnout rate. Increased fraud can take many forms: higher rates of filling out absentee ballots for people who hadn't voted, dead people voting, ineligible people voting, or even payments to legally registered people for their votes. However, the increase might not be as large as the fraud if votes for opposing candidates are either lost, destroyed, or replaced with ballots filled out for the other candidate. The estimates here indicate that there were 79,000 excess votes in Georgia and Pennsylvania. Adding Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, and Wisconsin, the total increases to up to 289,000 excess votes. Not good. So anyway, that is just purely the abstract of the study that John R. Lott has here, U.S. Department of Justice. And let me flash back to the article here. There we go. It says, Lott's method is simple and rather elegant. He compares absentee votes in precincts in Fulton County, for example, with the adjacent precincts in neighboring counties. He also controls for the demographics, much as what we just read there. Flashing forward says, but the evidence is still circumstantial. One factor in this year's election in Georgia is that unattended ballot boxes were set up, but only in heavily Democratic areas. I don't know whether all of them were in Fulton County, but I do believe a lot of them were. Anyone could drop any number of ballots into these boxes. Why the state's Secretary of State, a Republican, agreed to such an arrangement, which virtually cries out for fraud to be committed, is anyone's guess. But he did. The Democrats will argue, of course, that turnout was extraordinarily high in last year's election because their voters were motivated and they did a good job of driving turnout. Mail-in voting also predictably increased turnout, fraud aside. Analyses like Lott's can cast doubt on whether such benign explanations can account for Joe Biden's quote-unquote win, but there is no way they will result in the election being overturned. At this point, even if Republicans were able to show how, and by whom, fraud was perpetrated in various states, which likely would require confessions from Democratic operatives, which is too late to prevent Biden's inauguration. What will happen, however, is that Joe Biden will take office under a cloud of uncertainty. According to the polls, close to half of the country doubts that he actually won the election. His ill health and mental decline would make him a lame duck in any event. But the additional cloud over the legitimacy of his election will erode his authority still further. Over the next 2 years, the election will be investigated and books will be written. Some will argue that Donald Trump actually won the election, while others will try to show that Biden's victory was legitimate. In all likelihood, the question will never be definitively resolved, but the questions about Biden's legitimacy will probably grow. Will that scenario bring about demands for electoral reform so that future elections do not end in a cloud of doubt? I hope so, but I doubt it. At least in states where Democrats have substantial power. The Democrats like vote fraud. That has been true for a long time. In 2020, they saw how helpful to their cause lax voting procedures that both enable fraud and make it hard, if not impossible to prove, can be. They will fight tooth and nail to preserve their fraud advantage in future elections, all of which could make the bitterness over last year's election a mild preview of things to come. So there you have it. Will the fraud continue? That is a very good question. Do we think, honestly, that anything really got fixed in Georgia this quickly before the runoff? No, I don't think so. And of course, we've seen the perfect call with Raffensperger and his lawyer here in recent days, and of course, POTUS challenging their election integrity. And that's exactly what we're going to start getting into now. So over to Cvine, we get this in the last couple days. As Georgia election data shows 17,650 votes switched from Trump to Biden, according to the data scientists. Georgia election data indicates 17,650 votes were switched from President Donald Trump to Dem presidential candidate Joe Biden. Data scientists testified on Wednesday during a state Senate hearing. A team led by Linda McLaughlin, along with data scientists Justin Mealy and Dave LeBeau, presented the results before the Georgia Senate Judiciary Committee on Elections. So this is going to cover a lot of what we just covered in the previous article. Let me flash forward a little bit and find some of the good stuff here. It says, according to their analysis on time series election data, which was published online as early as December 24th, Trump's votes were decrementing in various counties instead of increasing as they do normally. And there we see 17,650 votes were allegedly switched from Trump to Biden as a result. And here you see the graphical version of the incremental votes, kind of in a waterfall stance, I guess, in a timestamp by timestamp position here. You can see 20,189, 4440, dropped to 4440, down 11,490, back to 948, and all the way to and through. And then you see the Trump total votes, 17,650 votes removed by the sharp decline, timestamp by timestamp there. So it says the team said the switching happened at the county level and was hard to be observed at the state level because the decrements were offset by accurate data uploaded by other counties. A clear example of vote switching happened in DeKalb County, they said. At 9:11 p.m. local time, Trump received 29,391 votes as Biden simultaneously received 17,218. However, in the next reported time update, Trump's votes became 17,218, while Biden's changed to 29,391. Wait a minute. Didn't we just find out in a previous article that they said that was quote-unquote human error and somebody must have fat-fingered it? Must have been a coincidence that it happened in multiple counties, I guess, huh? In this single event, 12,173 votes were switched, the data scientists believe. I want to make that very, very clear, that at no point in any incremental process should you decrement it, Lobu said. State certified election results show Trump lost Georgia by 12,670 votes. The Trump campaign is still challenging the results in various courts. McLaughlin's team didn't name any state official, county official, or related voting machine manufacturers for wrongdoing, but they did emphasize the analysis is not partisan. The analysis we're going to be reviewing is purely scientific, not based on any political affiliation, red, blue, left, or right. The objective really focuses on numbers, data, and machine network systems, he said. The Epoch Times cannot verify the allegation independently. And the Georgia State Secretary's office didn't respond to a request for comment from the Epoch Times. State Secretary Brad Raffensperger and his office have denied vehemently that systemic election fraud occurred during the November election. And so the article continues on with the ballot tallying process under question. The experts said during the Wednesday hearing they believe the switching could have happened during the results tally and reporting process. The Epoch Times also couldn't verify the allegation independently, but based on information published on Dominion Voting Systems website, Georgia used Dominion Voting Systems during the November election. And of course we saw that pretty well proved out with Mr. Pulitzer the other day and his live hacking of said machines. In rolling that out, I guess poll workers can reject or validate ballots during the RTR process. In a widely circulated video, an election supervisor in Coffee County demonstrated how Dominion Voting Systems voting software allows votes to be changed through an adjudication process. The process allows the operator to add vote marks to a scanned ballot as well as invalidated vote marks already on the ballot, the Epoch Times reported. Based on a statement from Richard Barron, director of Fulton County Board of Election and Registration, ballot adjudications happen substantially in the county with the largest population in the Peach State. We scanned 113,130 as of moments ago, and we've adjudicated 106,000 plus, and 93.7% of those. He can be seen saying in a video clip, the only ballots that are adjudicated are if we have a ballot with a contest on it, which there's some question as to how the computer reads it. So the vote review panel then determines voter intent. However, the unofficial results, which were used in the analysis by McLaughlin's team, should be published with the adjudication process, according to a Dominion Tally and Reporting User Guide. And there we find the PDF of said guide, which is available on the website of the Colorado State Secretary's office. It would be unlikely to cause Trump's votes to decrease. There's a step called auditing in the RTR process after the ballots are adjudicated and data is published and sent to the state secretary and media data port. It appears that adjustments can still be made if needed after the unofficial results are made public during the auditing step. The user manual does not provide detailed information about what specific changes, if any, can be made during the auditing process, including whether ballots can be added or subtracted during that process. Yeah, very, very interesting. So I guess lightning must have struck twice in various counties to where human error just magically was introduced, I suppose. And yeah, of course, we've already taken a look at other states like Arizona, Nevada, seeing similar things play out. I guess it way too many coincidences. All right, well. And of course, yesterday, last couple days, it's all been about the leaked tape here. National File has this as leaked audio. Trump says Georgia is shredding ballots to hide evidence. Warns Raffensperger that's so illegal. And of course, I'm sure many of you have probably now heard about the 4.5-minute clip in that was leaked via Washington Post. The main question that I would have, along with many others, is where's the remaining 31 minutes of the audio recording, as it was a 35-minute call, presumably all recorded. So take that with a grain of salt, because I'm sure it's been cut up and parsed for TV. President Trump dutifully reminded Raffensperger that there are legal consequences for illegally stealing an election. And of course, we also probably should remember that his attorney was online during that call as well and blatantly lied. In any case, during a leaked phone call, President Trump warned Georgia officials about the shredding of ballots in Fulton County to hide evidence that he won. President Trump was speaking to Georgia officials, including Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, and told them that Fulton County and others were shredding ballots, allegedly of Republican voters, to hide the fact that the president won the state and not Joe Biden. I'm just telling you, Ryan, Germany, Raffensperger's lawyer, they're shredding ballots, President Trump said. You should look at that very carefully because that's so illegal. You may not even believe it because it's so bad. They're shredding ballots because they think we're going to eventually get there, because we'll eventually get into Fulton County. In my opinion, it's never too late. And it says the president noted that only 11,000 votes needed to be recovered in order to flip the state back to him. We have far more than that as it stands now. We'll have more and more. Trump added, the president has faced criticism from the mainstream media and liberal commentators claiming that the focus on finding 11,000 votes is proof he's trying to create votes out of thin air. So we would just basically call that a fine case of projection, as they typically do with the old Saul Alinsky tactics. Nonetheless, the president's words were backed up by Stanford researcher and inventor Jovan Pulitzer. Pulitzer, who appeared at the Georgia Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Elections last week and hacked into Dominion's voting machines real time during the hearing, had been ready to audit the ballots in Fulton County. However, only a few hours after the decision had been made by the Georgia Senate, ballots started being removed. Just a coincidence, I'm sure, yet again. Just a few hours later, at the very place these ballots were supposed to be secured, moving trucks backed up and started mysteriously loading things out of this warehouse in Fulton County, Pulitzer said, and now we're hearing of rapid shredding going on. That's how much the law is being ignored. Thank God we have patriots reporting on it and documenting it. It will not go unpunished. And of course, if you missed it, obviously you can still see that on NTD Live, on their Twitter feed, etc., etc. The cover-up in GA continues following the GA Senate Subcommittee passing the motion to audit Fulton County's absentee ballots. Ballots in Fulton County were loaded into trucks and then shredded. And that was Jim Hoft over at Gateway Pundit putting that out. Says during the phone call, President Trump also appeared to discuss Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, the women seen in the security footage that went viral of them allegedly committing serious voter fraud. However, their names were redacted by the Washington Post. We had at least 18,000 that's on tape. 18,000 voters have to do with bleep, Trump said. She's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler. Bleep. Secretary of State Raffensperger has also come under fire after National File released a video showing him begging Chinese Americans to vote for him by mail in his 2015 Georgia House of Representatives race. Raffensperger went on to win this race by 159 votes. Yeah. So, Raffensperger still in a bit of hot water. And of course, it's going to be very interesting to see how tomorrow plays out. So, to that race, Georgia Senate race shatters spending records. This out of OpenSecrets.org. So, obviously, the stakes couldn't be higher. The Georgia contests that will decide party control of the Senate are the top two most expensive congressional elections ever by a large margin. More than 3 million Georgians have already voted in the January 5th runoff after being inundated with an unprecedented number of political messages over the last 2 months. The battle for the Senate has sparked an all-out spending war between the GOP and Dems on political ads, mailers, canvassing, and campaign rallies meant to ensure their supporters vote. The race between Senator David Perdue and Democrat John Ossoff is the most expensive Senate contest ever, with the candidates and outside groups spending nearly $470 million through Monday. The special election featuring Senator Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock has drawn nearly $363 million, good for the number 2 spot. Both those figures, which include spending in the primary and general elections, will increase when the candidates file their post-election spending figures with the Federal Election Commission. So there we see the most expensive Senate race ever. Way up here at about $15 million for Stephen Schwarzman. Then we get Kenneth Griffin, $13 million there, and of course Timothy Mellon, Shirley Ryan, etc. there. Moving on, it says the 2020 election cycle, which is twice as expensive as the last presidential election cycle, featured 9 of the 10 most expensive Senate contests ever. These high-profile contests have gone well for Republicans in recent years. Dems won only 2 of the most expensive Senate races, despite wielding a massive financial advantage. This time around, the money race is far more even. The Dem candidates have raised and spent record sums, shelling out a combined $222 million through mid-December, and that's compared to just $144 million for Perdue and Loeffler. But outside spending from big money super PACs, political parties, and dark money groups benefits Republicans. Conservative groups have outspent liberal groups $221 million to $105 million since November 3rd. And here we see the graphical depiction of the outside spending in the Georgia runoffs. This is Perdue and Ossoff. Conservative groups, $114.3 million. Liberal groups, $49 million. And the Loeffler-Warnock conservative groups, $106 million versus $55 million there. Between candidates and outside groups, Republicans have outspent Dems on the airwaves, but Dems have aired more television ads overall. That's because most of the Dems' TV ad spending comes from their candidates, who are entitled to lower TV ad rates than super PACs under federal law. It's unclear whether TV ads will make much of an impact in such a highly publicized election. Groups on both sides are also spending big on canvassing and phone banking to mobilize their supporters. Georgia has seen record turnout during the early voting, which traditionally Democrat voters accounting for an increased share of the vote compared to the general election. Republicans believe they will close the turnout gap on Election Day, but they're concerned that President Donald Trump could hinder their efforts. Trump has levied a flurry of baseless allegations that the presidential election in Georgia was fraudulent, and he recently labeled the Georgia Senate races illegal and invalid. This weekend, Trump urged Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to find enough votes to overturn his defeat to President-elect Joe Biden in the Peach State, according to a recording obtained by the Washington Post. On the hour-long call, Trump appeared to threaten Raffensperger with criminal consequences if he didn't act. And, of course, Trump was set to hold the rally for Perdue and Loeffler Monday, which has now happened, by the way, so no need to further continue that. But obviously, you can kind of see the little bit of bias this article has in accepting the Washington Compost crap for what it is. Compost, taken out of context, cut up, and cherry-picked, certainly, or at least the other 31 minutes. In any case, over to PJ Media. It says the media is lying about Trump's call with Georgia Secretary of State. So continuing on that thread. It says over the past couple days, media headlines have tried to convey the impression that a leaked phone call between President Trump and top Georgia officials show Trump pressuring Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to fraudulently find enough votes for him to win the state. Trump pressures Georgia's Raffensperger to overturn his defeat. An extraordinary call, read the headline from the Washington Post. CNN called the leaked audio astonishing new evidence of a desperate President Donald Trump trying to steal the election, claiming Trump tried to bully Raffensperger into finding votes for him. And that's the clown news for you. But a review of the transcript of the call shows no such thing. The Washington Post claimed that Trump repeatedly urged Raffensperger to alter the outcome of the presidential vote in the state, but that isn't what happened. Throughout the conversation, Trump lays out the evidence that there was voter fraud in the state and demands an honest accounting of the ballots, which he believes would give him more than 11,000 votes needed to win the state. I just want to find 11,780 votes is the key quote cited by the media, but there's more to the quote. And of course there always is, because this is the process they go and spin and spin and spin, and they do. So look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, is what Trump said in context. He also insisted that there's no way I lost Georgia. There's no way. We won by hundreds of thousands of votes. During the conversation, Trump laid out the evidence explaining how there are 4,502 voters who voted but who weren't on the voter registration list, and 18,325 vacant address voters whose votes should not have been counted. He even mentioned 904 votes linked to post office boxes, which is also not allowed. Trump also mentioned a State Farm videotape that corresponds to a late-night vote dump of at least 18,000 votes, which were counted after Republican poll watchers were told to leave. Trump brought up nearly 5,000 out-of-state voters, 2,326 absentee ballots sent to vacant addresses, and roughly 5,000 votes from dead people. Then there are the suspicious military ballots that went all for Biden. So, there were many infractions, and the bottom line is, many times 11,779 margin that they said we lost by. We had the state is in turmoil over this, Trump said on the call. Raffensperger disputed Trump's claim, saying that only 2 dead people voted, that the State Farm video didn't actually show fraud, and Raffensperger also claimed that an audit showed that there weren't any ballots that were scanned 3 times. Yeah, let that sink in, folks. That's all on the record as him saying such when, in fact, the evidence proves otherwise. While it's true that not all of these allegations by Trump's team may pan out or be proven, the allegations are linked to many thousands of votes and should be investigated properly. Yes, Trump did acknowledge that he'd only need roughly 12,000 votes to change the result, but that margin is smaller than the number of disputed ballots. Look, Brad, I have to find 12,000 votes, and I have them times a lot, and therefore I won the state. That's before we go to the next step, which is in the process of right now. And I watched you this morning, and you said, well, there was no criminality. Trump very clearly believes that he legitimately won Georgia and wasn't asking Raffensperger to fraudulently find enough ballots to make up that margin. Trump discussed at length the examples of fraud, which are backed up by video evidence, affidavits, and statistical analyses, many of which we just covered. Like the transcript with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, the Dems impeached him over. This phone call is yet another nothing burger that has the media and the left crying foul. There's already a Wikipedia page for the Trump-Raffensperger scandal. Dems are reportedly looking to censor Trump and have asked FBI Director Wray to open a criminal probe. But Trump quite clearly presented evidence that there was fraud and made the case that the number of disputed ballots is larger than his deficit in the certified results. A proper investigation would resolve these outstanding questions about these disputed ballots. So, again, the media doing typically what it does, cutting, hacking, slicing, dicing audio, making it fit their narrative, painting them in the worst case, as they have done over the last 4+ years now of the continued coup attempt against them by big media, big tech, and everybody else. Because that's what they do. And I hope that you aren't wise enough to either seek the information out yourself or do a little research. And nonetheless, here we are. And continuing along that thread, another Trump phone call is Georgia, the new Ukraine. This out of Liberty Nation here today by Mark Angelides. Says once again, a phone call between President Trump and another politician has sparked anger among the perpetually outraged. This latest instance, which certainly has echoes of the infamous Ukrainian call, relates to the 2020 election and sees Trump urge Brad Raffensperger, the Georgia Secretary of State, to do his job. However, the Fourth Estate has seized on this as a moment to accuse the president of yet more wrongdoing. The perception of misconduct is predicated on the idea that Trump was coercing Raffensperger to make up votes. But For anyone who can read a simple paragraph without injecting partisanship, the picture becomes far clearer. Trump wants Raffensperger to fulfill his duty by looking into claims of electoral malfeasance. Read the transcript. Sound familiar? Yeah, didn't we hear that back in the day with all of the perfect phone call? Exactly. A test for guilt? Well, the media machine was quick to trot out legal scholars and experts to back up its claims that the president was indeed wrong during his January 2nd discussion, and any subsequent investigation will surely feature the same talking heads. But there is a simple test to apply when determining someone's motive. If the other side suspected electoral fraud, would this phone call be the minimum they expect of the commander-in-chief? Partisanship is the curse of lawmakers and the fodder of the legacy media. If the shoe were on the other foot, and Dems sought to challenge the election results, no amount of cajoling or veiled threats would have been enough. What did the president actually say? A perfect phone call? Again? The recording of the call, published by a well-known Washington newspaper, is a magic mirror. It shows you precisely what you want to see. President Trump, speaking to Raffensperger, General Counsel Ryan Germany, and Deputy Secretary of State Jordan Fuchs, began by laying out his case that a full audit, one that checks signatures rather than just a tally of electronic votes, should take place. And he said, "We have at least 2 or 3, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County, which hasn't been checked. We think that if you check the signatures, a real check of these signatures going back in Fulton County, you'll find at least a couple of 100,000 of forged signatures of people who have been forged, and we are quite sure that's going to happen." This is the premise of what Trump is requesting, not that the Secretary of State makes up a swath of fraudulent ballots, nor that the state electoral teams throw out genuine ballots, but that serious consideration is given to check out the votes cast in the election were done by real people. Shocking, right? Well, the president further detailed issues with drop boxes that disappeared for several days, inconsistencies and questions that, regardless of party support, should be examined to ensure election results can be relied upon to reflect actual votes cast. Novel idea, huh? Something called election integrity? Well, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who joined the president on the call, clarified Trump's request, saying, "There are allegations where we believe that not every vote or fair vote and legal vote was counted, and that's at odds with the representation from the Secretary of State's office. What I'm hopeful for is there is some way that we can find some kind of agreement to look at this a little bit more fully." Yet again, the White House duo is asking that due diligence take place rather than the wholesale criminal manufacturing of fresh ballots. Raffensperger responded that the evidence had already been presented to state lawmakers and that the courts had rejected it. This is not quite accurate, however. A number of lawsuits across the country were rejected by courts not based on a judge reviewing evidence and coming to a determination, but because the suits asked for remedies that were either not within the court's powers to grant or too big an ask. So, seeking answers. The phone call in question is now the cause du jour of spin doctors and the activist media. It has become a cudgel with which to denigrate the president and cast his requests as something nefarious rather than a search for answers. And if a man believes he has been unfairly treated, and that people have conspired to steal from him something honestly won, is it not his right to ask those in positions of responsibility to do their due diligence? And is it not the responsibility of those who can seek the truth to do so, not just for the president, but for the sake of Americans' voters' faith in the whole electoral system? You would think. However, obviously, if you see who has bought many of these politicians, and they have them dead to rights on the old list, as Pompeo has clearly admonished them over, you understand that the truth is not in them. And continuing that thread. So obviously tonight we just had the rally down there. We also saw that Kelly Loeffler was up on stage. And we find this out today. She does plan to object to the Electoral College certification on Wednesday. So out of big league politics, says a 13th senator to oppose certification. So Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler will object to the certification of Electoral College results that formalize a Joe Biden victory in the presidential election on Tuesday. Elections are the bedrock of our democracy, and the American people deserve to be 100% confident in our election system and its outcomes, argued Loeffler in a statement. And there we see her statement on the Electoral College certification process penned here on the 4th today. Continues, says, I will vote to give President Trump and the American people the fair hearing they deserve and support the objection to the Electoral College process. Loeffler is objecting in her own capacity as a senator and is declining to join an Electoral Commission caucus led by Senator Ted Cruz to challenge results. Cruz's commission seeks to create an emergency audit commission to investigate improprieties in the 2020 election and 10 days before proceeding with any certification of Electoral College results. Loeffler's opposition to certification means that 13 GOP senators have pledged to oppose Electoral College ratification. It would take an outright majority of senators to block certification of the results and to force a new election. State legislatures have declined to appoint alternative slates of electors in states beset with accusations of pervasive voter fraud. President Donald Trump is slated to rally in support of Senators Perdue and Loeffler in Georgia tonight, who face two left-wing Democrats in a special runoff election on Tuesday, tomorrow. And David Perdue has also pledged to oppose the certification of Electoral College slates, ensuring both Georgia senators will stand for audit proceedings. So there you have it. We at least know perhaps that is going to be the position of Loeffler on Wednesday. And so obviously then we get to tonight. Says watch live Trump rally in Georgia tonight. Update at 9 p.m. And of course that just wrapped up here just a little bit ago. Tonight Trump will hold a rally in Georgia at 9 p.m. now in hopes of boosting both Perdue and Loeffler before tomorrow's big election. And you can watch below. I'm going to play just a little bit of this here. I got it queued up when he's already hopped off the helicopter. So I'll let this play for just a minute.
Thank you very much. Hello, Georgia. By the way, there's no way we lost Georgia. There's no way. That was a rigged election, but we're still fighting it, and you'll see what's going to happen. We'll talk about it, and I just want to thank you. This is some crowd. You know, Biden was here today also. They had 14 people in 3 cars. No, there was no way, and I just want to thank you. You know, I've had 2 elections. I won both of them. It's amazing.
So I guess I'll just pause it there. If you've not seen it, obviously you can go over to RSBN in order to get the rest of the feed. Like I said, it just wrapped up here just a little bit ago, so you can check that out. Fox News apparently carried it. Who would watch Fox News anyway? Nonetheless. In any case, to wrap things up here on the evening, if by chance you are on Gab, where I am, I just put this out here today. Here's the latest update to the list. Version 3 now available with over 5,400 articles to date, tracking the swing state shenanigans since Election Day, 3rd of November, Dominion, Smartmatic, Solar Winds, the Georgia runoff, etc. It's all in there. Video evidence, hearings, oppressors, outtakes, court cases, affidavits, motions, statutes, etc., all within the confines of this. You can find this over on my Dropbox account. And to reiterate, it's not a complete list by any means, but nonetheless a comprehensive list. And I would appreciate it if you can spread that information, as this has been now going on for the better part of 2 months. a lot of coverage by the independent, the alternative media, documenting all of this, every single court case, through Court Listener, through various PDFs, various pressers, Rudy Giuliani's, you name it, it's all pretty well covered in there. I don't think it has a kitchen sink, but doggone close. So, in any case, that's going to do it for this episode tonight. Again, if by chance you are tuning in and happen to be from Georgia, I hope that you guys do the right thing tomorrow. Hopefully, you guys do, as POTUS said, get at least 1 million plus of you out there to overcome what could potentially be a stinker of an election, because obviously we know that the Raffenspergers and company down there, the Brian Kemps, did absolutely nothing to fix any of the broken systems in such a short time as it's been uncovered. So, that's going to do it for this episode. Like I said, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you back here on the next one real soon. Take care. God bless, everybody.